What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're doing something a little bit different. Well, not really. We're doing another top 5 list, and today we're looking at quarterbacks. Let's get into it. That is right, everybody. So today we're looking at my top 5 quarterback prospects right now, at least for the Detroit Lions going into the 2020 draft. Now, this may update, this may change as we learn, as we look at new quarterbacks, as things change. Maybe some people decide, hey, I'm coming back for college, or maybe some other people declare. Doesn't matter. This thing may change, but right now, this is what it looks like. Now, what we're going to be doing for this list is basically starting off at players that I think will go later in the draft to working up to those players that will probably go in the first round, okay? So they're not really in order on players that I would want. I'll kind of talk about that as I talk about the player, but instead, they're in order of players that are probably going to go higher in the draft, okay? So keep that in mind. Let's get into it. Coming in at the honorable mention spot is Shea Patterson. Now, Shea Patterson is a guy I actually put in my honorable mentions yesterday as well. If you guys saw my Michigan video, you would know. Well, Shea Patterson, the quarterback from Michigan, has had a pretty solid last 2 seasons with Michigan. He's been better than I think he was at Ole Miss, and I think this season was way better. I think he took a huge jump this season. Obviously, he's going to play Alabama next week, which should be an awesome test, but I think he showed a lot of heart, a lot of spirit. He's been a really solid quarterback, and I know a lot of you guys are Michigan fans, so you know about him, so I don't need to talk too much about him. You know that he's, I mean, some people have mixed opinions. Some people don't really like him. Some people don't think he's that great. Other people really like him. I like him as a quarterback. I don't think he's some kind of amazing, awesome potential. That's why I put him at honorable mention. But I would be okay with him coming in like the 7th round. That's where he comes in. Now, let's get into the real list here, okay? So we're going to start off at number 5. But basically, I'm starting off again, like I said, players that I think will be drafted later, and then players will be drafted higher will go up the list, okay? So we're going to actually start off with Jalen Hurts. That's right. He comes in at number 5. I think Jalen Hurts is going to go late as the latest here. Now, that's projection wise. Jalen Hurts could actually be a really early pick, and that's because he's very hyped up. Look, Jalen Hurts, we have no idea where this dude's going to get drafted. Some people say this guy shouldn't even be a quarterback and that he's going to go 7th round. Other people want to say, hey, look, this guy could go 1st, 2nd round possibly, okay? That kind of hype. Personally, I don't think he should go that high. I don't think he's that good of a quarterback, and I think that's why you draft a quarterback for a quarterback. You don't draft him for, how much he plays and how much he fights and how much of a spirit he has. You draft him because he's a quarterback. You don't draft him otherwise, okay? Jalen Hurts is one of those guys that I think could potentially move to another position. I think that's the kind of player he is at the quarterback spot. I'm projecting him rounds 5 through 7. He weighs 218 pounds. He's 6'2". He's not a very accurate quarterback. He's pretty much that quarterback that I would explain as a one-read run. Let's say that fast. One-read run type of quarterback where he sees it, not there, now I'm going to take off. That's what he reminds me of. That's not a really good thing. You can't get away with it in college because it's college, but in the NFL, that's not a good thing. He's also one of those guys that struggles to read the defense, which again is super important, okay? He's got a will to win. He's got the great motor. He's played for 2 really good college teams, obviously in Alabama and Oklahoma. He's been under some really good coaches. Just doesn't seem like that guy to me. I don't know. I think he's going to be hyped up because, where he plays, his name's very big after the whole transfer thing went on. He's got a very big name out there. Everybody knows about him. I think he actually may go pretty high, but personally, I wouldn't take him very high. If he falls to the 5th round or later, then I'm okay with you selecting him. Earlier than that, don't do it. I wouldn't waste my pick on Jalen Hurts, but he could have that crazy potential. He's a weird player. We'll see how it works out. I know some people even say maybe he should move the fullback. That's strange. A quarterback to fullback. I don't think I've ever heard of that before. Now, I've heard of quarterback to tight end, wide receiver, maybe even running back, not fullback. That's strange. He comes in at number 5. Now let's hop into number 4. We have Jake Fromm. Hold up. Read that wrong. Stop. I gave away my next player. No, he's not up next, because if he was up next, my list would be all the way jacked up. No, coming in at number 4 is Sam Ehlinger. Now, I really like Sam Ehlinger. I think Sam Ehlinger would be a cool Lion, okay? He's very mobile. He's not a running quarterback, but he's mobile. He can move around. Some people compare him to Tim Tebow, that kind of mobility. But I know there is one thing going around that he's probably going to return, or that some people believe he should return next season to Texas to play another season, because he is a solid quarterback. He just doesn't have tons of experience, okay? Like I said, he's a junior. He could return. I like him as a quarterback, so if he went to the draft and he went rounds 4 to 6, which I'm projecting him at, that's when I'd be okay with him. If he's a 6th round pick, take Sam Ehlinger. If you go 4th for him, I wouldn't reach that far for him. He's not the best on timing, but he's raw. He's not super raw. I mean, he's more raw than other quarterbacks. He's just a guy that I like. I think he has the intangibles. He's not a bad quarterback. He's solid overall. I like Sam Ehlinger for some reason. He comes in here at number 4. If he falls, I take him. If he's in the 4th round, I wouldn't go that far for him. Next up, coming in at number 3 is the man, Jacob Eason. Now, Jacob Eason is a guy that some of you guys actually talked to me about. You're like, hey, you really have to look at Jacob Eason. I can't remember who you are, but one of you guys are really into Jacob Eason, which is cool. And I think you said he reminded you of Tyree Jackson from last season, and he really does when I looked into him. 6'6", 227, somewhere around there. Like I said, that's Tyree Jackson kind of size, because Tyree was huge last season. Obviously, he went undrafted. We tried him out. It didn't work out. Jacob Eason's very big like him. Now, Jacob Eason, though, is going to be a very high draft pick in my opinion. I could see this guy going in rounds 1, 2, or 3. So he comes in at number 3. Get it? Because, no. But he has a big arm. And what I mean by big arm is that, you need those short intermediate routes. He can fire it in there like a missile. And that quick just swap, just swap, just swap, just swap. It just whops it right in there. I don't know why I made that sound effect. That's what Jacob Eason is. And he's a very big quarterback, like I said, okay? This is like a Ben Roethlisberger type of size quarterback, which sometimes can be a good thing, sometimes can be a bad thing. I don't know. It's probably not a bad thing. If you're a good quarterback, you're a good quarterback. He's definitely a pocket passer, okay? He can read the defense. He played at Washington. He transferred from Georgia, so there you go, the Georgia Lynx once again. He's a solid quarterback, but he's very raw. If you want to talk about raw quarterbacks, this is your guy, Jacob Eason, who had to miss time due to transferring. Very little experience. I could see him being a nice line as a backup, but I could also see him maybe not coming in the draft. I think he's going to come into the draft because of all the hype around him. I think, he's going to be pretty much at least a top third round pick. Top third round pick, is that how you said it? I think he'll be somewhere in that range, so he's going to go in the draft. Now, if you can find this guy probably a little bit later than that, then I'd take him for sure. I just don't think he'll last that long. I do like him, though. He comes in at number 3. Now, coming in at number 2 is Jake Fromm, okay? So I said this guy's name earlier, so I messed it up. But Jake Fromm is one of those guys that I think is going to go round 1 and 2. 6'2", 220 from Georgia, so like Matthew Stafford. He gives me a little bit of similarities to Matthew Stafford. Nope, not really. Never mind. I lied. His arm strength is just average, okay? And that's the reason he doesn't. Okay, Matthew Stafford has the arm strength. He doesn't have it. That's like the complete opposite. You think of Stafford, you think of big arm. You think of Jake Fromm, you don't think of big arm. So, no, they're not similar. But they both did go to Georgia, okay? He's had tons of experience. We know he's been there for like 12 years. I don't know. Jake Fromm, you must live there. I don't know what's going on, okay? He might just stay there again. I don't know. Maybe he's redshirted again. I have no idea what's going on there. Little mobility. He's not a mobile quarterback. Doesn't have the biggest arm. Those are two things that are definitely way against him. But couple things that are good for him. He looks like a prototypical NFL quarterback. Those guys that you draft that are like, 6'2", 220. They're pocket passers. They're solid. They're reliable quarterbacks. He's clutch. He's got all the experience. That's why he's going to go where he's going to go. He's not as much of a risky pick in my eyes. I feel like some other guys are risky. Jalen Hurts is super risky depending on where you select him. Jake Fromm, not very risky. You get him in the 2nd round, you kind of know what you're going to get. You're not going to get a superstar. You're going to get a solid quarterback. Maybe he'll grow into a superstar. I don't know. He comes in number 2. Finally coming in number 1 is Joe Burrow. Now, Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in college football in my eyes. He looks like the next like a guy that could be very like Matthew Stafford out of LSU. We know he won the Heisman. We're not going to get him, okay? Unless we would have to take him at the 3rd pick, which I think he could go 1st overall. So we're not going to get him. But if I do my top 5, he is my favorite. So he's on the list at number 1, but there's no way we get Joe Burrow. If he fell to us, would you take him? I don't know. I mean, that's kind of hard. I don't think it would make a lot of sense because you need help elsewhere. But he's that talented. I think he could be the next really good quarterback in the NFL. We'll see what happens. Don't really need to talk about him too much. Y'all know about Joe Burrow. He comes in at number 1. Let me know out of these 5 quarterbacks who you would take. I think Jacob Eason's interesting if he falls. I could take him like 4th round or later. I would take him. I just don't think he'll fall that far. Sam Ehlinger, another one of those guys that if it's 6th round and beyond, I can see taking Sam Ehlinger as well if he goes into the draft. Those 2 guys really interest me. Maybe Hurts if he falls past the 5th round to the 6th and 7th rounds. Any earlier than that, I wouldn't even think about it. Otherwise, those are really my 3 guys. And obviously, if Jake Fromm or someone falls to like the 7th round, yes, take him, please. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.